January 3, 2020. In the dark early hours of the morning, a convoy of vehicles slowly left the airport in Baghdad. The city was quiet, the roads nearly empty. Inside one of the cars sat Qasem Soleimani, one of the most influential military commanders in the Middle East. For decades, he had operated in the shadows of geopolitics, building alliances, shaping conflicts, and expanding Iran's influence across the region. But on that night, unseen in the sky above Iraq, an American drone was watching. Minutes later, missiles struck the convoy. The explosion lit up the road. Within seconds, one of the most powerful figures in Iran was dead. The strike had been ordered by Donald Trump. And almost immediately, the world began asking the same question. Was this the start of a new war? A region on edge? The strike did not happen in isolation. For decades, tensions between the United States and Iran had been building, layer upon layer of mistrust, conflict, and political rivalry. To understand why the assassination of one man caused such global shock, we have to go back more than 40 years. Back to the moment when the relationship between the two nations changed forever. 1979, the beginning of hostility. Before 1979, Iran was actually one of America's closest allies in the Middle East. The country was ruled by Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, a monarch who maintained strong political and military ties with the United States. But inside Iran, dissatisfaction was growing. Many Iranians believed the Shah's government was authoritarian, corrupt, and too closely aligned with Western powers. Mass protests spread across the country. Eventually, the monarchy collapsed in what became known as the Iranian Revolution. The revolution transformed Iran into an Islamic republic under the leadership of Ruhollah Khomeini. Almost overnight, the political relationship between Washington and Tehran changed from partnership to hostility. The hostage crisis. The situation escalated dramatically later that same year. In November 1979, Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. More than 50 American diplomats and staff members were taken hostage. The crisis lasted 444 days, becoming one of the most humiliating foreign policy crises in modern American history. The event became known as the Iran hostage crisis. Television images of blindfolded hostages shocked the American public and hardened attitudes toward Iran for decades. Even after the hostages were eventually released, the relationship between the two countries remained deeply fractured. Diplomatic ties were severed, sanctions followed, and mistrust became permanent. The Shadow War. In the years that followed, the conflict between the United States and Iran rarely took the form of direct warfare. Instead, it played out through proxy battles, political pressure, and regional influence. Iran supported allied groups across the Middle East. Meanwhile, the United States strengthened alliances with Iran's regional rivals, including Saudi Arabia and Israel. One of the most significant flashpoints came during the Iran-Iraq War. The brutal 8-year war between Iran and Iraq reshaped the region. Hundreds of thousands of people died. The United States indirectly supported Iraq, which further deepened Iran's distrust of Washington. By the end of the war, the Middle East had become a complex web of alliances and rivalries. And emerging within that landscape was a military officer whose influence would eventually reach far beyond Iran's borders. The rise of Qasem Soleimani. Qasem Soleimani was born in rural Iran in 1957. He grew up in a poor family and initially worked construction jobs. But after the Iranian Revolution, he joined the newly formed Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, often called the IRGC. The IRGC was created to defend the revolution and protect Iran's new political system. During the Iran-Iraq War, Soleimani distinguished himself on the battlefield. His leadership, discipline, and strategic thinking quickly earned him respect among fellow soldiers. Over time, he rose through the ranks. Eventually, he became the commander of a powerful branch of the IRGC known as the Quds Force. The Quds Force was responsible for operations outside Iran's borders. Its mission was to expand Iran's influence across the Middle East. Under Soleimani's leadership, the unit developed networks of allies and partners across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and beyond. To his supporters, Soleimani was a brilliant strategist who defended Iran and fought extremist groups. To his critics, he was a dangerous figure responsible for fueling regional conflicts. Either way, his influence was undeniable. The Middle East after 2003. The balance of power in the Middle East shifted dramatically after the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. The war removed Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein from power. But the collapse of Iraq's government created a power vacuum. Iran quickly moved to expand its influence inside the country. Through political alliances and militia groups, Tehran gained significant leverage in Iraqi politics. At the same time, American forces were fighting a brutal insurgency. Some of the militias involved were backed by Iran. U.S. officials accused these groups of attacking American soldiers with advanced weapons. According to the U.S. government, many of these networks were coordinated by Soleimani's Quds Force. This period marked the beginning of what many analysts described as a shadow war between the United States and Iran. It was a conflict fought indirectly, through militias, intelligence operations, and regional alliances. And at the center of that shadow war was Qasem Soleimani, a reputation across the region. Over the next decade, Soleimani's reputation grew. He was known for personally visiting battlefronts across the Middle East. Photos circulated showing him alongside fighters in Iraq and Syria. In Iran, he became a symbol of resistance against Western influence. State media portrayed him as a heroic defender of the nation. But outside Iran, many governments saw him very differently. In Washington, U.S. officials accused Soleimani of orchestrating attacks that killed American soldiers. For years, he remained one of the most closely watched military figures in the world. Yet despite the hostility between the two countries, both sides avoided direct confrontation. That fragile balance would hold for years, until the tensions of 2019 began pushing the situation toward a breaking point. Rising tensions in 2019. By 2019, relations between the United States and Iran had deteriorated sharply once again. The situation had been made worse by the collapse of a major international agreement. In 2015, Iran had signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, often called the JCPOA. The agreement limited Iran's nuclear program in exchange for relief from economic sanctions. But in 2018, the United States withdrew from the deal under President Donald Trump. The U.S. government reimposed severe sanctions on Iran's economy. Iran's currency plummeted. Oil exports dropped dramatically. Political tensions escalated. Soon, the conflict between Washington and Tehran was once again approaching dangerous territory. And events in Iraq would soon bring the two sides closer to confrontation than they had been in years.